Hello, Grant Wiley here from Worthington Publishing, here to welcome you to another edition of Grant's Game Room, episode 11. Today we're going to be talking about Fire in the Lake by GMT Games, designed by Volko Ruhnke and Mark Herman. Both veterans of the war game design. This was my first coin game that I was playing, and I was actually in the middle of the game when I decided I'd do a review of this versus some other game. So, with that being said, on to a little housekeeping. If you're enjoying these videos, please make sure you log in, subscribe, and share with friends, especially gamers. We appreciate any support. And with that being said, let's get into the component review. Okay, here we are with the component review. First, you saw the box for Fire in the Lake. Beautiful standard GMT box. Great box. Opening the game, get the rules of play, and it clocks in, I think, at 24 pages. Something like that, 24, 28. You don't use all the rules. Some of it has setup, victory conditions, index, but you do have to go through at least 12 pages of rules before you get to the solitaire rules. Guys, these are dense. I will tell you that this was not a game for me originally. I looked at it a number of times, and until I watched Marco Ornato's review, I probably never would have attempted this game. You get some beautiful player aids. This is North Vietnamese, and it's all on one. Viet Cong, RVN, United States. You get non-player charts because this game is very solitaire. But as you can see, it's basically a flow chart, which was a huge turnoff for me when I first looked at this. You get sequence of play, non-player VC, again flow charts for each side, random chart, setup chart, or a random location chart for the non-player. You get cardboard tokens for control and special events that happen via the cards. You get, I believe, 130 cards. A lot of information on them. They aren't always very clear, or they're trying to convey so much information on the card that it's just a bit overwhelming. You get a lot of wooden tokens, red for NVA, orange for ARVN Police, green for US, blue for VC, and yellow for the ARVN troops. You've got a beautiful hard-mounted board that has necessary charts and play spaces on here for components. Now, on to what I think is the most important thing in the box, and that is the playbook. The playbook has a tutorial guide for coin series players. If you've played other coin series games, you can jump into it through this. How the different factions interact. Non-player for the bot. So if you're playing solitaire, this kind of walks you through how to do that. Event text, backgrounds, design notes. So there's a lot in here. Card explanations, which I unfortunately found a little lacking. It basically tells you what's on the card, gives you a tip, and then gives you the background. It didn't give me the explanations for some of the cards that I was looking for, so I kind of muddled through on my own. We're going to zoom in here a bit on the board, and I'll talk about what some of the spaces are. We are actually looking into Cambodia right now. And for the different locations, that's northeast Cambodia, it shows you a population, which side controls the location, and whether it's neutral or biased towards one side or the other. You get markers that show, that's terrible. Well, the markers show support for the United States or the U.S. and South Vietnam, or opposition, which aids the North Vietnamese and the VC. One of the things that was also confusing to this game about me is you see the spaces. Well, if you look in between the spaces, let's zoom in some here, you see the line with the circle, and that's Route 14 between Dak To and Con Tum. The one in a circle are economic points which aid in for the ARVN. You can also place pieces on there. There were a number of confusing things about this game, and I don't mean this as any disrespect to Mark or Volko, but the rules I found not real well written and a little confusing, but that's for me. For somebody else, they may pick it up and understand it completely. The line of communication was something that definitely threw me, in that you could have pieces on that line, it represented a space, as well as the areas around it, which are also spaces. I think they could have completely done away with the Route 14. You've got some for the Mekong Delta, and perhaps implemented it into another way, like if you controlled both sides of the line, then you could block the communication, or the line of communication there, or the economic point for the side. We'll talk a sec here about victory. Each side, which is very cool, and this was very original by Volko and Mark, each side has its own individual victory conditions. So while the ARVN and US are basically on the same side, they're each working towards different goal. For the ARVN, they want a coin-controlled population plus patronage, which is a mix of things. Basically, let's talk about coin control. They need more pieces than their opposing side. So Kontum is, you can see, coin control, which is the Allies. Or, I say Allies, American and ARVN. So you see 2 U.S. pieces and a ARVN police. They control that. They've got active support. You can see that with the ×2 there. So that's 2 times that population goes towards U.S. victory. So they multiply that 2 times the, so that becomes 2. They get 2 for that. Plus the U.S. player to win needs support plus available U.S. troops. They win by not having skin in the game, which is kind of cool. So you see all the U.S. forces there. That adds another 17. You total all the support areas, and the U.S. can win that way. For the North Vietnamese, it's North Vietnamese Army-controlled population, and they can control a lot of areas in Laos and Cambodia that are worth nothing, plus bases. The circle pieces, the flat circle pieces are bases. So they got 1, 2, let's see, I think 1 more base. They don't have a lot of victory points right now because they don't control much. And for the VC, it's opposition, which is the opposite of the support, plus VC bases exceed 35. And I will say, in my game so far, which I am greatly enjoying, despite having to figure out the rules, it's 35, so you get your opposition, and right now you can see the VC have a lot of the opposition markers down south in the Mekong Delta region. They got, let's see, where's the finger? 2 there. And you multiply 2 times 2, so they got 4. They got a number of bases. Right now their victory is setting way up here at 38. The U.S. is at 39. So if the game ended now, the VC would actually win. But I just went through what's called a turn-in, which is a coup, kind of a cool way to mark turns without you ever really knowing when it's going to end. So how you play is I have my draw deck. That's my big old draw deck there. And so there's my draw deck, and there's my active deck. So what you do is, to determine who goes first, is you look at this card. This is the active card. The next card here is the card that's getting ready to come up. So you know the next card. There's no active hand for players. And this tells you which side gets the first option on using these cards. So it's the VC, US gets second choice, NVA third, and ARVN fourth. Now, for that, you have some choices to make. You see the markers there showing who's active. Up to two sides, up to two of the factions in a turn can use these. They can either use the event card, which you can see here, or they can do an op, and I'll explain that in a sec, or they can do an op only with no special ability. And whatever one the first player chooses, the next player can only choose something in the next box. So if the ARVN decide, or the VC decide to do the event, they would look down here at the shaded portion, which you can't see. Big unit war bypasses population. Shift 3 provinces with no police, each 2 levels towards active opposition. So I would pick 3 provinces with no orange cube in them and shift each of them 2 levels toward opposition. At that point, I would shift this marker to here, and the next faction, the US, could either decide to do an op with a special op capability, or pass, which adds 3 resources to the ARVN. It's a cool mechanic in making you make decisions. The mechanics in this game are awesome. The mechanics and the thought behind it, and I have no doubt that the rules probably are how they are because they were trying to get in everything that happened during the war and give players choices. Really, I thought the rules could have been simplified greatly by taking out the lines of communication. I don't have a lot of... I'm playing the solitaire right now, and I will tell you that I'm playing it solitaire the old way. Playing each side to the best of their ability. I don't know what card's coming up. I don't know how things are going to play out. I'm not using the bot, the flow charts. I couldn't figure it out. As near as I could tell, you're really supposed to use the event anyway, and I didn't feel like spending an hour following a flow chart just to make one move with one side. It plays much quicker. Just play it to the best of your ability. I'm not using the line of communication much, but really what the game comes down to is you play the event, or you choose one of these 4 options for this side. So for the VC, I can rally, which adds troops. I can march, which moves troops. I can attack, which I can attack troops. Or I can do terror, which shifts provinces or cities towards following me or the other side. And each side, so the VC, really have the same choices as the North Vietnamese, but there are some subtle differences, which is kind of cool. And then you also have special abilities, special activities. You can infiltrate, bombard, or ambush. For the VC, it's attack, subvert, or ambush. And depending on which one of the operations you choose, depends on which of the special activities. So really, the game comes down very simply, and they could have simplified this somewhat by choose either the event, an operation with an activity, or pass. It's hard, and I know this personally, it's hard designing a card game where you're trying to explain what can be done in the cards. You don't want to overwhelm people with text on card in like 4-point font. So they were trying to make it as clear as possible. But it was definitely confusing for me. Now that I've got it, though, I want to try Fire in the Sky, because I hear that they take out the lines of communication. I guess the lines of communication are in the other coin series games. So if they take that out, I think it simplifies things. And really it comes down to, like I said, you've got choices to make. Your choices affect the next player's choices. And that's it. Now, with all that being said, it may sound like I didn't like the game, but I've been playing this for 4 days now, and I am greatly enjoying the game. I think they designed a great game. It's difficult sometimes writing rules, I know for myself. You know, it's a process that you go through. Normally you get the meat of your ideas, you write them down, and then you're fleshing them out through playtest and other people's notes. It can be overwhelming, particularly with a game of this depth. I mean, they've covered a lot in this game, and it is a great game. I'm going to finish this game. I'll let y'all know how it goes. I recommend it highly. You know, read through the rules, but definitely use the playbook tutorial. It taught me the game. It took me a couple nights to figure it out, but then once I figured it out, hey, you've got 4 operations. Each side's is different. You can add special activities or play the event, and that's it. That's the meat of the game. Just follow the instructions on the event or the operations or the card, and you'll get it. Some of the cards are confusing. I think there's more there than that needs to be said that wasn't, or a clearer explanation, but that could just be me. You know, but all in all, even if you make a mistake playing the rules, playing the game, I don't think it's going to affect it greatly, because there's so much involved with this, and I think it really gives you a good sense of Vietnam. Personally, I still prefer Hearts and Minds, but this is right there with it. I mean, they've designed a great game. Can't wait to play Fire in the Sky. So, Mark and Volko, if you see this, please don't take this as a you know, a smack at you, because I think you did a great job. It's unbelievable the amount of stuff you have in here. And I actually feel like I'm learning about the war as I go along. I watched the PBS special, which was great. If you guys haven't seen it, please watch all 10 parts. There's stuff, political chicanery that took place between Nixon and McGovern. It was unbelievable seeing them, you know, sabotage our peace moves. It was disgusting seeing Jane Fonda do her bit. I haven't seen if there's a Jane Fonda card in here yet or not, but for my first play, I've got it figured out. I'm enjoying it. Guys, I recommend this game highly. If you don't have it on your shelf, give it a shot. And go out on Board Game Geek, look around, see if there's any that may look easier for you. I think Fire in the Sky is going to be a step down from this in complexity because of the no lines of communication. So you're not putting troops necessarily on the line. But definitely worth a try. Give it a good shot, and let us know what you think. Guys, if you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe, like, give us a thumbs up and a share. Hit the notification button. You'll be notified, I think, most of the time when we put new videos out, although that's not 100%. But most of all, have a great gaming day and play a game. Happy gaming.